Hold on. Stop right there. You gave up sugar. You said goodbye to bread. You haven't touched a dessert in weeks, maybe months. You've been disciplined, committed, maybe even a little smug about it, and honestly, you deserve to be. And then you get your blood test back. The number stares at you. Your blood sugar is high. Your doctor raises an eyebrow. Maybe they ask you, gently but pointedly, if you've been sticking to the diet. And you're sitting there thinking, are you serious right now? I haven't had a cookie in ages. So what in the world is going on? I'm going to blow your mind today because there's one massive, critical piece of this puzzle that almost nobody talks about. Not your doctor, not your nutritionist, not the guy at the gym who swears by keto. This is the piece that changes everything. And once you understand it, you'll never look at your blood sugar the same way again. Let's go. Most people believe, reasonably, logically, that blood sugar comes from the food they eat. Sugar in, sugar out. Eat a donut, blood sugar spikes. Skip the donut, blood sugar stays low. Clean and simple, right? Wrong. That's only half the story. And the half you're missing is living right inside your own body. Let me introduce you to your liver. Your liver is an absolute powerhouse. It has over 500 functions, and one of its most important jobs is acting as your body's detox center, filtering out the garbage and keeping things running clean. But here's what most people don't know. Your liver is also a sugar factory, a full-on, operational, 24/7 glucose production facility. And it doesn't care whether you ate sugar or not. Here's why. There are certain cells in your body, specific brain cells, certain kidney tissues, a handful of other specialized structures that require glucose to survive. They can't run on fat. They can't run on protein. They need sugar, period, full stop, no negotiation. So what happens when you stop eating sugar? Does your body just let those cells starve? Absolutely not. Your liver steps in. It starts manufacturing glucose, pulling it out of fat, pulling it out of protein, synthesizing it from scratch, and shipping it off to the tissues that need it. This process even has a name, gluconeogenesis. Gluco meaning glucose, neo meaning new, genesis meaning creation, new glucose creation. Your liver is literally building sugar out of non-sugar ingredients, like a molecular chef improvising with whatever's in the kitchen. So even if you ate 0 carbohydrates today, your liver is still out here making sugar. It's doing its job. It thinks it's helping. The question is, why is it making too much? Here's the thing. Your liver has an off switch, and that off switch has a name, insulin. When insulin is present and working correctly, it signals the liver to stop producing glucose. It's like a thermostat. Too much sugar in the blood, insulin kicks in, liver production slows down, balance is restored. Elegant, efficient, beautiful. But what happens when that off switch breaks? This is where it gets really important, so stay with me, because this is the part that explains everything. Imagine you've been eating a high-carb diet for years, a decade, maybe 2 decades. Every meal, every snack, every sugary drink, it all triggers insulin. Your pancreas pumps it out over and over and over again. Insulin spikes after breakfast, spikes after lunch, spikes after dinner, spikes after the handful of crackers you grab just because, spikes after the juice, spikes after the so-called healthy granola bar. Year after year, your cells are getting absolutely bombarded with insulin, and eventually they start to tune it out. Think about it like this. If your neighbor plays loud music once, you notice it immediately. But if they play it every single day for 10 years, at some point you stop hearing it. You've adapted. You've checked out. You've built a wall. That's exactly what your cells do with insulin. They stop responding to it. They ignore the signal. And this condition has a name: insulin resistance. Now here's where your liver comes back into the picture. When your liver becomes insulin resistant, it can no longer hear the off switch. Insulin is there trying to say, "Hey, stop making sugar, we have enough." But the liver isn't listening anymore, so it just keeps producing and producing and producing. More glucose pours into your bloodstream. Your blood sugar climbs. And you're sitting there having eaten 0 sugar, 0 bread, 0 starch, completely confused, while your own liver quietly floods your system with glucose it manufactured itself. This is not a food problem. This is a hormonal problem. And it changes everything about how we need to approach the solution. Now let me add another layer to this because I want you to really see the full picture. Let's say you've been eating a terrible diet for 15 years. Lots of carbs, lots of sugar, constant snacking. But every time you get a blood test, your blood sugar looks totally normal. So your doctor says, "You're fine, nothing to worry about." But here's what was actually happening beneath the surface. Your insulin was working overtime. Every time blood sugar spiked, insulin rushed in like a cleanup crew, hauling that glucose out of the bloodstream and stuffing it into your cells and your fat tissue. Blood sugar looked normal on paper, but insulin levels? Through the roof, and nobody was checking that. This can go on for 10, 15, even 20 years. You look fine on paper, but the insulin resistance is quietly building in the background, getting worse and worse, like rust slowly eating through metal. And then one day, the system breaks down completely. Insulin resistance becomes so severe that even massive amounts of insulin can't do the job anymore. The cleanup crew is exhausted. They can't keep up. And now blood sugar starts rising, and it keeps rising, and suddenly you have a diagnosis. Here's the number that will shock you. In people with type 2 diabetes, roughly 80% of the excess sugar in their blood is coming from the liver, not from food, from the liver. The liver that's been running wild because nobody could turn it off. This is also why certain medications like metformin work the way they do. Metformin doesn't fix the root cause. It doesn't heal insulin resistance. What it does is go directly to the liver and tell it to calm down and stop producing so much glucose. It manages the symptom, which can be helpful, don't get me wrong, but it's like putting a bucket under a leaking pipe instead of calling a plumber. The pipe is still leaking. Now let's talk about stress, because this is a factor that shocks a lot of people. When you're under stress, physical stress, emotional stress, sleep deprivation, even just the stress of a brutal commute, your body releases a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is your fight or flight hormone. It's ancient. It evolved to help your ancestors survive predators and emergencies. And one of the things it does is dump sugar into your bloodstream, fast, so your muscles have instant energy to either fight or run. Great system if you're being chased by a lion. Not so great if the lion is your inbox. Chronic stress means chronically elevated cortisol. And chronically elevated cortisol means your blood sugar is being spiked over and over again, completely independent of what you ate. People who take cortisol-based medications like prednisone know this firsthand. Blood sugar can skyrocket on those medications. Some people even develop drug-induced diabetes because their cortisol levels are so artificially elevated. And here's something fascinating that ties stress and the liver together. Have you ever heard of the dawn phenomenon? Here's what it is. You wake up in the morning. You haven't eaten anything since the night before. You test your blood sugar, and it's high, higher than it was when you went to bed. You didn't eat anything. You were literally asleep. How is this possible? Here's what's happening. Around 4 to 8 in the morning, your body naturally releases its biggest cortisol spike of the day. This is by design. It's meant to wake you up, get you energized, prepare you for the day. But that cortisol spike also triggers glucose release. And if you have insulin resistance, there's nothing to shut it down. So your blood sugar climbs while you sleep. The dawn phenomenon is essentially insulin resistance wearing a clock. It tells you that your liver has been in overdrive for a long time, and your body has lost the ability to regulate it properly. If you experience this, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means you have a very clear, very fixable target to work on. So how do we actually fix this? Let's get into it, because this is the part people actually want to know. And the solution is simpler than you think. Step 1, go low carb, and I mean actually low carb. Not just cutting out obvious sugar, not just skipping the candy bar. I mean reading labels. I mean hunting down the maltodextrin hiding in your protein powder, the modified food starch in your salad dressing, the dextrose in your deli meat. These ingredients spike insulin just like table sugar does, sometimes even faster, and they're lurking everywhere. Starches have to go too. White rice, white bread, pasta, potatoes. Your body converts these to glucose almost instantly. Going low carb means eliminating the triggers that have been hammering your insulin for years. Step 2, stop snacking completely, especially at night. I want you to think about this for a second. You eat a full meal, and then 90 minutes later you want to eat again. Are you actually hungry, or is something else going on? What's usually happening is a combination of two things. First, certain foods, especially highly processed, hyper-palatable foods loaded with sugar, salt, and engineered flavor, hijack your dopamine system. They create a craving that feels like hunger, but isn't real hunger. It's a chemical urge manufactured in a food science lab. Second, the blood sugar roller coaster that comes from eating high-carb meals creates real crashes. And those crashes trigger genuine feelings of hunger and urgency, even though your body doesn't need more fuel. The fix is to eat real, satisfying, nutrient-dense meals and then close the kitchen. Done. Finished. No exceptions. I recommend 2 meals a day. Skip breakfast. Eat your first meal around noon. Eat your second meal around 6. And after that, nothing. Not a handful of nuts, not a piece of dark chocolate, not a healthy snack bar. Nothing. Every time you eat, even a small snack, you trigger insulin. Every insulin spike is another hit against your receptors. Every hit deepens the resistance. The only way to heal insulin resistance is to give your insulin levels a long, sustained rest. And you cannot do that if you're grazing all day. Step 3. Attack your stress like it's a medical emergency, because it kind of is. Sleep is non-negotiable. When you're sleep deprived, cortisol rises, insulin resistance worsens, and blood sugar climbs. 7 to 9 hours is not a luxury, it's medicine. Daily walking is one of the most underrated tools in this entire process. A 20 to 30-minute walk after meals does something remarkable. It pulls glucose directly into your muscles without requiring insulin. It's like a back door into your cells. You bypass the broken front door entirely. Blood sugar drops, Stress drops, cortisol drops, everything improves. Sunlight matters more than people realize. Natural light during the day regulates your cortisol rhythm, supports melatonin production at night, and reduces the kind of ambient background stress that fluorescent office lighting quietly amplifies. Get outside. Even 10 minutes makes a difference. And the hard truth about timeline, because I want to be honest with you here, this is not a one-week fix. If your fasting insulin is elevated, and by the way, the ideal range is between 2 and 5, not the so-called normal range that goes up to 25. If your fasting insulin is high, you have been building this resistance for years, possibly decades, and healing it takes time. For some people, significant improvement happens in weeks. For others, it takes months. For people with deep, long-standing insulin resistance, it could take a year or more of consistent, disciplined effort before things fully normalize. But here is the thing I want you to hold on to. It will happen. The body is not broken. The body is adaptive. The same mechanism that allowed insulin resistance to develop, repeated, sustained stimulus over time, works in reverse. Remove the stimulus, lower the insulin, give the receptors time to breathe, and they will reset. Every meal you eat that doesn't spike insulin is a deposit into your recovery account. Every walk you take is interest on that deposit. Every night of good sleep compounds the return. This is not a permanent condition. It is a reversible one. And now that you understand the real mechanism, that your blood sugar problem may have nothing to do with what you're eating today and everything to do with what your liver is doing and what your cells stopped listening to, you have the map. You know where you are. You know where you're going. And you know exactly how to get there. If you found this valuable, go check out my video specifically on liver health, because everything we talked about today connects directly to it, and there's even more in there that will shift your understanding completely. I'll see you there.